My name is Alina Rivera, and I was 21 years old the night everything changed. I've always believed that some nights come and go quietly, like pages in a book you barely notice turning. But some nights, they rip the whole book apart. It began on an ordinary Thursday, or at least it seemed ordinary to me. The library had just closed at midnight, and I stepped out into the cool October air with a backpack full of textbooks and a head buzzing from hours of cramming. Campus was almost deserted, just the faint hum of a vending machine and the flicker of the lampposts lining the path. My breath came out in little clouds as I pulled my jacket tighter. I remember pulling out my phone, half distracted, and ordering an Uber. Nothing unusual. I'd done it 100 times before. Within minutes, a black sedan pulled up. The driver rolled down the window, gave me a polite nod, and confirmed my name. Alina. Yes. Hop in. I'll get you home safe. His voice was calm, steady. His name on the app was Victor. I slid into the back seat, tossing my bag beside me. I was too tired to make small talk. The car smelled faintly of leather and peppermint. The dashboard glowed with soft light, the navigation arrow pointing toward my apartment. Everything was normal until it wasn't. A few blocks into the ride, I heard the sound of the doors locking with a heavy click. Froze. What was that? I asked, my voice sharper than I meant it to be. Victor didn't answer right away. He glanced at me in the rearview mirror. His eyes steady, unreadable. Then he said something that made my stomach drop. You're not safe at home tonight. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard him. What? You're not safe. Listen to me, Alina. I need you to stay calm. My heart hammered in my chest. Every self-defense video I'd ever watched flashed in my mind. Don't panic, look for exits, grab something sharp. My fingers curled around my backpack strap like it was a lifeline. Look, I stammered. If this is some kind of joke. It's not a joke, he cut me off firmly. Your mother, she knew this day might come. She asked me to keep you safe. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the car. My mother. What was he talking about? She was a nurse, a woman whose entire life revolved around double shifts, second-hand coffee, and making sure I ate dinner between study sessions. She wasn't part of whatever this was. You're lying, I whispered, more to myself than to him. Victor didn't argue. Instead, he reached into the passenger seat and held up a phone. Here, he said, his tone softer now. Listen. I hesitated, then slowly took it. The screen lit up with a call already in progress. And then, Alina. My mother's voice. Shaky. Desperate. Mom. My throat tightened. What's going on? Where are you? There was a pause, and then I heard her whisper. Baby, listen to him. Please. Do exactly what he says. Don't go home. It's not safe. Her words were like ice water poured straight into my veins. My mom never sounded like that. She was the strong one, the steady one. Hearing fear in her voice was worse than any locked door or strange driver. Mom, you're scaring me, I said, tears already pricking my eyes. What's happening? I'll explain soon, she said. Just trust him. Trust me. The line went silent. Victor took the phone back and set it beside him like nothing unusual had happened. I pressed myself against the seat, my mind spinning. Nothing made sense. If this was real, why hadn't my mom told me anything? Why hadn't she warned me? And if it wasn't real? What if I was trapped in a stranger's car with no way out? I glanced out the window. The streets blurred by, taking me farther from campus, farther from home. I considered opening the door, but the locks were firm, the car speeding just fast enough to make jumping out impossible. My hand slipped into my bag, fingers brushing against the small can of pepper spray I always carried. Least I had that. Victor must have noticed my tension because he said quietly, I know you're scared. I would be too. But panic won't help you tonight. Then what will? I snapped, my voice cracking under the weight of fear. Listening, he said. And patience. I hated him in that moment. For being calm while my life was unraveling, for knowing something I didn't, for holding me hostage in the middle of the night. But deep down, I also hated the part of me that believed him. Minutes stretched like hours. Every streetlight we passed threw shadows across the car, making Victor's face flicker between light and dark in the mirror. My mind kept replaying my mom's trembling voice. Do exactly what he says. I wanted to scream. I wanted to demand answers. But something inside me whispered that I couldn't yet. If my mom trusted this man, maybe I had to, at least for now. So I stayed quiet. My body trembled, but I forced myself to breathe. As the city faded behind us and the road grew darker, I realized I was crossing a threshold I couldn't come back from. This wasn't just a late-night Uber ride anymore. This was the night my safe little world cracked wide open. The night that broke me. The farther we drove, the less familiar the streets became. Apartment buildings faded into warehouses, neon signs into empty fields. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass of the window, trying to memorize every turn, every landmark, as if that would save me. Finally, I couldn't take the silence anymore. Where are you taking me? I demanded, my voice sharper than I felt. Victor didn't look at me. His hands were steady on the wheel. Somewhere safe. You keep saying that, but you haven't told me anything real. Why can't I go home? What's happening with my mom? He sighed like a man carrying the weight of a truth too heavy to share. Then his eyes flicked to mine in the rearview mirror. Because the man your mother put in prison 15 years ago was released tonight. The words didn't make sense at first. They hung in the air between us, sharp and unfamiliar. What are you talking about? I asked, my voice trembling. His name is Delgado, Victor said. A dangerous man. Your mother testified against him when you were just a child. He swore revenge. He never forgot her face, or yours. I felt the world tilt under me. Testified. Prison. My mother. None of this matched the woman who packed my lunches, nagged me about homework, and worked double shifts at the hospital. My mom's biggest rebellion was adding extra sugar to her morning coffee. You're lying, I whispered. You have to be lying. Think about it, he said calmly. Haven't you ever wondered why she moved you so often? Why she kept her circle so small? Why she never talked about the past? Images flashed in my mind. The way my mom jumped whenever someone knocked unexpectedly. How she always kept the curtains drawn. How she'd once burned a stack of old photographs in the backyard, refusing to explain. I shook my head violently. No, that doesn't mean. But my chest tightened, my body betraying the doubt clawing its way in. Victor's phone buzzed. He answered quickly, putting it on speaker. My mother's voice filled the car again. Alina! Mom! I nearly shouted. Tell me this isn't true. Tell me he's making this up. Silence. Then softly. It's true. The bottom fell out of my world. Why didn't you ever tell me? My voice cracked, half rage, half heartbreak. Because I wanted you to have a normal life, she said. I didn't want you growing up in fear. But Delgado, he's out. And he won't stop until... She broke off, her voice trembling. Victor will keep you safe. Please, baby, listen to him. I pressed the phone against my chest, unable to speak. My hand shook so hard I nearly dropped it. The woman I thought I knew, my steady, selfless mother, was someone else entirely. A woman with secrets. A woman who had enemies. Alina, Victor said gently, as if reading my thoughts. I know you feel betrayed. But she was protecting you. And now we have to protect her. Before I could respond, headlights flared in the mirror behind us. Car. Too close. Its beams cut through the dark like blades, blinding me. Do you know that car? I asked, panic flooding my veins. Victor's jaw tightened. No. Hold on. The black sedan swerved, speeding up to match us. My stomach dropped as it pulled dangerously close to our bumper. Then, with a jolt, it rammed us. Ah! I screamed, clutching the seat as our car lurched forward. Victor gripped the wheel, steadying us. Get down, he barked. I ducked low, heart pounding so loud it drowned out everything else. The pursuing car rammed us again. The sound of metal against metal echoed like a scream. "What do they want?" cried. "You," Victor said flatly. "They want to use you to get to your mother." I shook my head, tears spilling. No, this isn't real. This isn't happening." But the fear in his voice told me it was. Victor slammed the accelerator, the engine roaring as we shot forward. The other car followed, its headlights burning into us. We weaved through empty streets, each turn sharper, faster, more desperate. My stomach churned with every swerve. "Open the glove compartment," Victor ordered. "What?" "Do it. Now." My shaking hands fumbled with the latch until it popped open. Inside was a small can of pepper spray and something heavier wrapped in cloth. I stared. "Take the spray," he said. "Keep it in your hand. If they get close, don't hesitate." My fingers closed around the can, slick with sweat. I'd never actually used it before. What if I froze? What if I missed? The car behind us sped up, closing the distance. I could almost see the shadowy figures inside. One of them rolled down a window. "Victor!" I screamed. "I see them!" he shouted, swerving just as something small and metallic clattered against the pavement. A tire spike thrown but missed. Adrenaline surged through me, burning away the fog of fear. My mom's voice echoed in my head. "Stay calm, listen." I tightened my grip on the spray. I wouldn't be helpless. Not tonight. Victor's phone buzzed again. He pressed the speaker without taking his eyes off the road. "Report," my mother's voice demanded. "We're being tailed," Victor replied. "2 men. Delgados. Take her to the safe house," she said quickly. "Don't let them corner you." "I know." Her voice wavered. "Alina, listen to me. I never wanted this for you. But you are stronger than you think. Remember that." Her words were both a comfort and a curse. Strong. I didn't feel strong. I felt like a trapped animal waiting to be caught. But something in me sparked. A flicker of defiance I hadn't known was there. I straightened in my seat, no longer crouching. My fear hadn't vanished, but it had changed. It had teeth now. Victor glanced at me in the mirror. For the first time I saw approval in his eyes. "Good," he said quietly. "You're ready." The car behind us surged forward again, ramming harder this time. The seatbelt bit into my shoulder. I raised the pepper spray, clutching it so tightly my knuckles went white. I wasn't ready for this. But I had no choice. This was my life now, running through the shadows of secrets I'd never asked to inherit. And deep down I knew. The night wasn't close to being over. The night was a blur of screeching tires and pounding heartbeat. I gripped the pepper spray like a lifeline as Victor swerved us off the main road, taking a hard turn onto a cracked, empty street that seemed to lead nowhere. "Where are we going?" I shouted over the roar of the engine. "Somewhere we can control the ground," Victor snapped. The pursuing car stayed glued to us, headlights burning into my eyes every time I glanced back. I felt like a rabbit being hunted, my chest tightening with every second. Finally, Victor spun the wheel, skidding us into a wide, abandoned lot filled with weeds and broken lampposts. The silence of the place was worse than the chase, like the world had emptied out just for this moment. He slammed the gear into park. "Get ready," he said. His voice was calm, but his hands flexed on the steering wheel. The other car screeched in behind us, cutting its lights. 2 men stepped out, their silhouettes tall and menacing against the faint moonlight. They moved slowly, deliberately, like predators who already knew the outcome. My breath caught. I pressed back against the seat, every nerve screaming at me to run, but there was nowhere to go. "Stay low," Victor ordered, reaching beneath his seat. When his hand came back, it held a handgun wrapped in black tape. My stomach twisted. "You have a gun." "I told you," he said. "Your mother knew this day might come. She prepared me." The men fanned out, one approaching Victor's side, the other circling toward mine. Their voices were low, mocking. "Rivera girl. one of them called. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Delgado just wants a word. A word. The way he said it made my blood run cold. Victor cracked his door open, using it as a shield. She's not going anywhere with you. The man laughed. You think you can stop us? 2 against 1. Don't be stupid. Meanwhile, the second man drew closer to my side of the car. His shadow stretched across the window. His steps slow, confident. He tapped the glass once with his knuckles, like knocking on a coffin lid. Open up, sweetheart, he taunted. My hand shook so violently I almost dropped the spray. His face was clearer now, hard, sharp eyes, a cruel smirk. He wasn't bluffing. My whole body screamed to freeze, to disappear into the seat. But something stronger surged up. My mother's trembling voice on the phone. You are stronger than you think. When he reached for the handle, I cracked the window just enough and shoved the pepper spray through the gap. Press down. A sharp hiss filled the air, followed by his howl of pain. He staggered back, clutching his face, cursing violently. For a split second, I couldn't believe I'd actually done it. My hands trembled, adrenaline flooding through me like fire. Victor seized the moment. He fired a single warning shot into the ground. The crack split the night. The second man froze mid-step, his eyes flicking from Victor's gun to his writhing partner. Next one won't be a warning, Victor said coldly. The men hesitated. Their confidence was cracking. The one I sprayed was half blind now, stumbling toward their car. The other hissed something under his breath and grabbed him by the arm. This isn't over, he shouted, his voice echoing across the empty lot. Then they scrambled back into their car and peeled away into the night, tires shrieking. For a moment, all I could hear was my own ragged breathing. My chest rose and fell so violently it hurt. The pepper spray can slipped from my fingers and clattered onto the floor. Victor lowered his gun, watching the retreating taillights until they vanished. Then, slowly, he turned to me. You did good, he said simply. I stared at him, trembling from head to toe. My throat was dry, my palms slick with sweat. Good, croaked. I thought. You didn't freeze, he said firmly. You fought back. That's the only reason they backed off. I shook my head, tears welling in my eyes. I'm not built for this. I'm just a student. I shouldn't even be here. Neither should your mother, he said quietly. But she made her choice. And now Delgado's making his. You've been pulled into it, whether you're ready or not. The weight of his words settled heavy in my chest. I thought about my mother again. Her sacrifices, her hidden fears, the walls she built around us that I'd always mistaken for overprotectiveness. She hadn't been paranoid. She had been preparing me, even if I didn't know it. I wiped my tears with shaking hands, forcing myself to breathe. My pulse slowed just enough for clarity to seep in. The truth was terrifying. Delgado was real. His men were real. And they weren't going to stop. But another truth flickered alongside it. I wasn't powerless. I had stood my ground. I had fought back. For the first time in my life I had felt what courage really was. Not the absence of fear, but the decision to act in spite of it. Victor slipped his gun back under the seat. His movements calm and practiced. We need to move, he said. They'll be back, and next time they won't run so easily. I nodded, still shaky but steadier than before. My fingers brushed the pepper spray on the floor, and I picked it up again, this time holding it with purpose instead of panic. As Victor started the car, I whispered under my breath, almost like a vow. I won't be helpless again. The road stretched ahead, dark and uncertain. But for the first time that night, I wasn't only afraid of it. I was ready to face it. The confrontation was over, but the war was just beginning. The lot faded into the distance behind us, swallowed by shadows. My body still trembled from the confrontation, but my mind felt strangely clear. I wasn't the same girl who had gotten into Victor's car hours earlier. Something had broken, and something else had awakened. The silence in the car was heavy, filled only by the steady hum of the engine. I clutched the pepper spray in my lap, staring at my reflection in the darkened window. My face was pale, my eyes wide, but there was something new in them, resolve. "Where are we going now?" finally asked. Victor's jaw tightened. "The safe house. Your mother's waiting." The words landed like a lifeline. For hours I'd heard only her voice through a phone, fragile and strained. The thought of seeing her in person, of demanding answers face to face, was the only thing keeping me from collapsing. We drove for what felt like forever, winding through back roads until a small cabin appeared, tucked away behind rows of trees. Its porch light glowed faintly, a beacon in the dark. Victor pulled up and cut the engine. "Stay behind me," he said, scanning the shadows. Only when he was satisfied did he motion me forward. My legs felt like jelly as I climbed out of the car. Every creak of the wooden steps echoed like thunder in my ears. When the door opened and my mother stepped out, I almost crumbled. "Alina," she whispered, rushing to me. I fell into her arms, burying my face against her shoulder. For a moment, I let myself be her little girl again, the girl she'd spent her whole life protecting. But then the flood of anger and confusion surged back. Pulled away. "You have to tell me everything," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "No more secrets. No more half-truths. I deserve to know." Her eyes glistened, but she nodded. "You're right. You do." Inside, the cabin was simple. A few chairs, a fireplace, a table stacked with papers, and an old radio. Victor stood guard near the window while my mother and I sat across from each other. She took a deep breath. "When you were 6 years old, I worked at a clinic in a neighborhood controlled by a man named Delgado. He ran everything, business, police, even the courts. But I saw something I couldn't ignore. He hurt people, Alina. He destroyed lives. And I testified against him." I swallowed hard, listening as she painted a picture I could barely comprehend. How she had spent months looking over her shoulder. How she had entered witness protection briefly but left to keep some semblance of a life for me. How every move we made, every curtain drawn, every sleepless night, it had all been because of him. "You should have told me," I whispered, my voice cracking. "I wanted you to be free," she said, tears rolling down her cheeks. "I wanted you to go to school, make friends, dream without fear. If I had told you, you would have carried my burden. And I couldn't let that happen." The weight of her words pressed against me. I wanted to stay angry. I wanted to hold on to the betrayal. But underneath it, I saw the truth. Everything she had done, the secrecy, the lies, had been rooted in love. A fierce, protective love I could never question. I reached across the table and took her trembling hands. "I don't know if I can forgive you for hiding this," I admitted honestly. "But I understand why you did. And I don't hate you for it." Her face crumpled as she whispered, "That's all I hoped for." The fire in the hearth crackled softly, filling the silence that followed. Victor finally spoke from the window. "Delgado won't stop. Tonight was just the beginning. But we'll get help. Your mother isn't alone anymore. And neither are you." For the first time I believed him. I looked at my mom, really looked at her. Not just as the exhausted nurse who lived for double shifts, or the woman who carried the weight of our world in silence. I saw her as she truly was. A survivor, fighter, a woman who had stood up to a monster and kept standing, even in the shadows. And maybe I had a piece of that in me too. Hours later, as dawn began to bleed across the horizon, I stood outside the cabin, watching the first rays of light scatter across the trees. The world felt different, heavier yet somehow brighter. I thought back to the girl who had stepped into Victor's Uber at midnight, yawning from study fatigue, thinking the biggest problem in her life was her upcoming exams. That girl was gone. In her place stood someone who knew fear more intimately, but who also knew her own strength. I whispered the lesson to myself, one I wanted to carry forever. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the choice to fight even when you're terrified. When my mother joined me on the porch, she slipped her arm around me. "You're so much stronger than I ever was at your age," she said softly. I shook my head. No, I'm strong because of you. Because of what you carried for me all these years. She smiled faintly, and in her eyes, I saw not just exhaustion but pride. We didn't know what would come next. Delgado was still out there. The fight wasn't over. But for the first time I felt ready. Not because I wasn't afraid, but because I understood the power of truth, love, and resilience. That night hadn't just broken me. It had built me. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. The secrets we hide may protect those we love, but eventually the truth has to come out. And when it does, it doesn't just reveal the past. It shapes who we choose to become. That's the night I discovered not just who my mother really was, but who I was meant to be.